Hello, Chris here to talk about Indie Insights. Indie Insights is our bi-weekly newsletter and love note to the film industry, movies, and the creatives who make them, not to mention you, our esteemed listeners. Inside, you'll find curated industry trends, articles, exclusive commentary, and underappreciated films from filmmakers like yourself worldwide. The best part is that it's completely free. So sign up today at www.bonsai.film/subscribe. It just takes a few seconds. And once you sign up, you'll get our next newsletter on Friday morning. Just go to www.bonsai.film/subscribe to get Indie Insights, our bi-weekly newsletter, and join a network of film creatives like yourself. One more time, that's www.bonsai.film/subscribe to get Indie Insights for free. Hello, Chris here with this week's Bodega Sync Indie Artist Spotlight. And this week we have the one and only Goodvibes Sound. That's the name of the band, Goodvibes Sound, with their track, I've Been Here Before. If you want to hear the whole track, just like any other week, all you need to do is fast forward to the end or listen to the end of the podcast and the whole song will play. But it's also sort of teased to you at the beginning of the track. Just want to make sure everybody knows that week to week, we tease the track in the beginning and then the whole thing plays at the end of the podcast. So again, the artist is Goodvibes Sound. The track is I've Been Here Before. Let me give you a little bit of information on Goodvibes Sound. Goodvibes Sound are Alex and Angus, two friends who live in London and record out of their basement studio in a former corner shop. They make disco-infused indie pop with lyrical themes touching on love, mindfulness, and modern life in the city. I've Been Here Before explores this back and forth that we all experience throughout life. While the lyrics discuss feelings of isolation and loneliness, the contrast between mellow verses and catchy high-energy choruses evokes this repetitive cycle. If you want to learn more about Goodvibes Sound and support them, you can do that at their website, thegoodvibesinstitute.com. You can find them on Instagram at Good Vibes Institute, and you can find them on TikTok at Good Vibes Institute as well. Please do go out and support Alex and Angus of Goodvibes Sound. And without further ado, please enjoy this in-depth, technique-rich, gems-rich, information-rich, entertaining conversation with the one and only Sara Antonio. You're listening to Make It, the Indie Film Podcast.
Hi, I'm Sara Antonio, and I'm an actor. I met Chris through our work on Another Version of You, which is a beautiful feature film. And you can catch me now on ABC's Will Trent as Gina Wormwood, and I'm a recurring character on season 1 and season 2.
Sara Antonio, welcome back to the Make It podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I couldn't be more pleased. I mean, come on. Like this has been long overdue.
I know.
And I think a lot has transpired in the years since you were first on. So for those listening or watching that want to see Sara's Virgin Voyage on the Make It podcast, you can find episode 42. And that was her episode. I do think that that is only on Apple and Spotify. I don't think we've uploaded that episode to our YouTube page. So if you're on YouTube watching this, if you really want to see it, and I don't see why you wouldn't, let us know. Let us know in the comments, and we'll have producer Joe and intern Jada climb through the archives and pull up episode 42 so you can watch Sara from Sara before the trauma of COVID. Pre-COVID drama, okay. Sara.
I have a confession to make because I'm watching myself and
okay, confess.
Yeah, so I see this shirt that I'm wearing and it's free wardrobe that I got from set. Which is my favorite type of clothing because like someone styled me in it. It was like, that looks good. And then I got it for free at the end. So there's a little free actor's note for people. If you are an actor and you do a commercial at the end, if you really tell them how much you sweat in it, they'll just give it to you. That's like
great. That is so Larry David of you.
I know. So I like try and emphasize. I'm like, boy, I wore my hippie deodorant today and it was hot out there. And they're like, please take it. You're disgusting.
I think everybody has always wondered, do you get all the stuff for free? Or is it just for like
for commercial?
The 1% of actors, like Will Ferrell gets to keep his stuff on set and then he gets to auction it off. But does everybody get to keep their wardrobe and certain stuff? Or do you have to sweat in it?
You have to really, if you sweat in it, that'll really sell it. Commercials at the end of the day, they're like, please just take it. It's yours. For episodics, there's a really cool system they have with like little barcodes and they want to lock that down because they can't release it until the show's totally done. And then film, whenever I work in film, I really try and emphasize how much I sweat in that wardrobe too, so I can take it home with me.
Has this ever worked with Cicely Hoffman?
Oh no, she doesn't work with Cicely because she has vintage. She wants to keep that.
Yeah, she's like, I don't give a shit. I'll wash it when I get home. Like, I don't care. Like,
anyway, just
take it off. And by the way, I thought that was a dress.
No, it looks like a dress top. I wore it in a commercial I did for Florida Natural Orange Juice, and it's me and my fake son walking in a grocery store, and then it turns into an orange grove, and I'm like, what the hell? And I'm wearing this shirt. So there's that.
So I love this. So we're starting off the podcast with pro tips. It reminds me of the Curb Your Enthusiasm episode where Larry David decides to wear a MAGA hat, even though he's not MAGA, just so he doesn't have to talk to people. So he finds out if he wears a MAGA hat everywhere, people just avoid him, which he loves. So I love this life hack as well. It's like sweat in it. People don't want to be associated with the clothes anymore.
And you could not have to sweat in it. You could just ask nicely, which is also an option. You could say, hey, when we're done, can I take this?
I think that's probably the best way for the uninitiated. Let me go back a step and just do like the professional podcaster thing here, Sarah, and read from your bio. I do think this bio, even though it's very thorough, could be potentially like a little dated. So anything
it's so dated. Oh yeah, anything that's online is like that I had anything to do with is like so dated.
Okay, I'm going to read it, and if you want to amend anything, you just start amending to it. Okay. All right. Sara Antonio is an actress who has recently starred in the faith-based drama The Reason, alongside Academy Award winner Louis Gossett Jr. and Tatiana Ali, and in Another Version of You, a romance adventure film shot in Iceland, France, and Tennessee. She's acted in films such as Hallmark's Christmas at Graceland, Lifetime's Night Nurse, and Locked In, Hot Summer Nights, and Everyday Yeti, a selection for the Festival de Cannes. She has television appearances on Watchmen, which you could find on Max, The Righteous Gemstones, also on Max, formerly HBO, The Resident on Fox, Nashville on ABC, House of Cards on Netflix, The Inspector on CBS, and the miniseries AHA. She can currently be seen as Gina Ormwood. Did I pronounce that right this time? Ormwood? Okay, she can be currently seen as Gina Ormwood in ABC and Disney Plus's Will Trent, and as the woman in the Litter Robot commercials, the very funny National Stop Scooping campaign, and other commercial work, including national campaigns for Geico, DirecTV, Zaxby's, Valvoline, and Cox Communications, among others. You also have a background in theater. You're a very, very smart person as a graduate of the University of Virginia.
Wow.
And you also have a master's degree in communications from the University of Florida. Sarah, how was that bio? What's missing? What needs to be taken out?
Your reading was top notch. Very good. Very good reading. And you updated it with, I think that I last updated my bio probably like 2020. Like I think that's when The Reason came out. I think it was the last time I updated it. So I think there's probably
also a COVID casualty.
Yeah, and there's also COVID. Nobody worked. I don't know. And then there was a strike. Let's see. I think I've worked on that was solid. And then I've also worked on Friend of the Family was I had a role in there that maybe we didn't make it. And then we've done Will Trent for the last like 2 years, really the last 2 seasons. I think some other little projects around there too, and some commercial campaigns. But those are some good highlights.
I love that. And why don't we just start there to get the audience even more associated and affiliated with your mega talent? Let's talk about the Hulu /ABC/ Disney Plus series Will Trent. This show airs everywhere apparently.
Yes. So good.
Can you tell us about Will Trent for those who haven't seen it? What is this show? What is it about? And what is your role?
If you haven't seen it, go see it right now. It's so good. It's ABC. It's, how do I say genre wise? It's a comedic crime drama. It's a procedural. So they're solving, 1 to 2 crimes per episode. And there's some really great through lines, but the writing is so good. It really doesn't fall into any tropes. I think it's really smart and funny. The lead character, Will Trent, it's based on a book series. And the lead character, Will Trent, is dyslexic. He can't read and he grew up in the foster care system. And so he's kind of working through his own childhood traumas as he helps solve crimes through the GBI, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and then he partners also with the Atlanta Police Department. So you've got 4 leads, 2 GBI agents, and 2 Atlanta detectives. I play the wife of Michael Ormwood, who is one of the Atlanta detectives. My character is Gina Ormwood. So Michael Ormwood is played by Jake McLaughlin, and he is so talented. He's so good. He's been in Quantico. He's been in everything. And the show's really popular. It just got renewed for the 3rd season, which is great. My character shows up in the 1st season, and then I've gotten to work a bunch in the 2nd season, which was really nice. And
it really is.
Jumping in next week.
Go ahead.
No, just jumping in next week. Yeah.
Really? Oh, so this is awesome.
I know, but I can't tell you. I can't tell you. Don't ask me.
I don't want somebody to have to kill you or sue you for this. Yeah, don't tell me anything. But here's the deal. It really is a big deal to be renewed for a 3rd season. I think TV shows get chopped away faster than ever before.
Oh,
I feel like the Netflix and streamers of the world, especially, are really kind of okay with a story just not ending, or just okay, you had a season or 2. It didn't work. We're going to bail. They have no sunken lost fallacy bias at all.
No.
They're nope.
One of my favorite shows, Glow, is so good, and they just bailed on the ending to that, didn't give that a finale or anything. So I think that's a huge win for everybody. I think that's a testament to the actors on the show just being really compelling, and then the writing just being funny. The 2 showrunners, Liz and Dan, have just created this environment where these characters are real, and I feel like they're really well developed, and the writing is sharp and funny and smart. And so it's been a pleasure being able to work on this show. Yeah,
it's to the audience, when they have your back, it feels so great, because they will fight for your show to show up on some other network. They won't leave it alone online. I'm reminded of Family Guy. I'm reminded of Ray Donovan. Just shows where the audience demand, an ending. I think maybe even The Affair was like that as well, even though that probably was reaching its conclusion around the time that I think Showtime wanted to, move away, if that's even accurate. But the fans supporting the show is key. And you can't have one without the other. You can't have the fan support if you're not speaking their language, being funny, like you said, being great writers and being great performers, which we're going to talk a lot about in this conversation. We're going to go deep and wide, if we can, on the craft of being an actor, for television, for film, whatever, and some of these techniques so that this audience, as they're sort of listening, can take this episode and then run with it to go audition for their next thing. But before we get to that, I just want to show a little bit of your acting off here. So I'm going to, let me play a little scene.
Really nice. Thank you again. I can't remember the last time
Angie, stop. Look, I invited you here tonight so I could look you in the eye, see who you are. And I get it now. You're that cop who wants to lock up all the bad guys and do the right thing so that no one's looking at you.
I'm sorry. What are you?
Cop ways talk. Kenny Storyer's wife saw you in a parking lot, walking to Michael's car. I know what went on between you two. Don't let it happen again.
All right, all you little monsters better be in bed.
All right. That at the very end where you turn and smile and speak to your children after that is so freaking powerful. That is great.
Oh,
Great. Because that's a tough scene. I mean,
Erica Christensen too. Like, she's such a badass. She's so cool.
Yeah. She did so much with her eyes and her jaw in that countering to you. And I know we'll talk about like the part of acting that is listening and just reacting, almost improv style, but more, in your physical and your expression and your eye line with the camera. But just to have your eyes sort of watering up, your heart is broken. You have to have courage to say this to, this person who, by just her demeanor, you can tell is a powerful woman in her own right. And then the real great part of that to me too is the writing at the end, where instead of it being salacious, and sometimes I think writers fall into that trap, they choose this very, very human route to go, which is don't let it happen again. That's the line of the whole scene.
That's what that episode is called.
Yeah. Don't let it happen again.
Is don't let it happen again.
Okay. I didn't know that. And so the fact that, okay, so I can pull that out. That is the powerful part, because she doesn't want her life blown up. She loves her life. She loves her husband. She loves her kids. She gets it. They did this thing. I'm in this culture. I don't know how long I can tolerate this, but don't let it happen again. And turn around, tears gone, smile, voice back, kids. And that is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That must have been so fun for everybody to sort of shoot that scene and witness that on set. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you. No, I mean, it's a pleasure to work on that show. Howie Deutsch directed that. And he directed Pretty in Pink. And I also got to work with him on another episode. And just being directed by somebody like that who kind of has the big picture of it is, because usually most episodes have their own director and then they never come back again. And so I got to work with him a couple times, and the experience was really cool. Yeah.
I'm proud of you. That's awesome.
Nice.
So let's
real torture to like watch
yourself.
If the sweat's kicking in again, like to watch yourself. First of all, to be watching yourself might be like a special.
That's wild.
After hell. But thank you for that opportunity. No, I mean,
how meta is that?
Segue to script analysis and scene study.
Yeah, let's get into that. Let's talk about detailed scene breakdown, Sarah.
Yeah.
How do you do it? What is it? And why is it so important?
So if I think anybody who comes to me was like, I have the golden ticket of what great acting looks like, I would run in the other direction, because I think it's so subjective. And, the end result is where we're all getting to. And I think there are dozens of ways to get there. And what works for one person might not work for another person. So I think you're really building a toolbox of whatever works for you to get to the end result, which for me is authenticity. I think that's what, everybody wants, is authenticity in the character that you're portraying. And so how you get there, I think, can vary. I think you can build your own personal toolbox. One of the things that works for me is like detailed scene study and script analysis. It's based on the belief that my imagination is strong enough to work with what the writers have given me to develop a full character, and trusting the writers that they've put the information that you need in the script, whether you're dealing with like a full screenplay or whether you're dealing with a scene that you got for an audition. The information that you're going to need is there. And if it's not, then you take what they've given you and you use that beautiful God-given creative imagination and expand on that. So, for example, if I get my audition from an agent, it comes in, you've got like your character breakdown. It's so-and-so and so-and-so, Gina Ormwood. Here's the short paragraph about her. Here's the paragraph about the show itself. I would dive in. Now, when I got it, the show hadn't come out yet, right? So they were casting this before anything was released. So you've got to kind of use a guess. That's a little bit harder, right? You're guessing it to what the tone is. I think that was the challenging part, is like, what is the tone of the show? What are we comparing it to? Is it, I was thinking that maybe it was in the vein of Ozark. Is that what it is? And so you're playing around and trying to figure out, how funny is this? How serious is this? What's the read on it? And trying to get to the appropriate tone. If I'm confused about things like that, I reach out to the casting director through my agent. The casting director for this project was Matt Sefik. And so just kind of getting a good read on where things are and what they want. If I had questions about the scenes, reaching out. So seeing who the directors are, seeing who's been cast, seeing what information is available. If the show's already out, go watch it. If the director's listed for a film, go see something that he or she has already made so you can get a feel of what their style is. And then digging into the audition itself. If you've got one scene with 2 lines, if you've got 8 scenes with, script, whatever, details, digging into what you have available. I always look at goals, and like you can expand whatever you want from that. You can ask every question you can think of for your character. You can ask who they were 10 years ago. You can ask what their childhood traumas are. And sometimes
are you asking that to yourself? Or are you asking
no, not to the showrunner. I mean, for yourself. So kind of, if you're confused about a script and there's like a key question that you need answered, like, where is this happening? Or what is the tone? 1 or 2 questions, send that off to your agent to send to the casting director. I wouldn't bombard them with anything, and keep it something that you obviously can't tell from the script. So work with that. If there's something that you really need answered, get that question answered. Then when you're sitting down, it's just you and the script that you have. I think you can decide how many questions you want to ask. Sometimes I think it's appropriate to like go deep, like, who is this person? What's their backstory that's not even here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can ask all the questions you want for yourself based on what's available on the page. And a lot of that's going to be imagination based. For me, the things that I've kind of gotten to a shorthand that I always do are looking at the goals and obstacles and tactics in the moment that we're seeing.
Right.
So my goal.
Have you, at this point though, have you seen a Bible? Like, are you able to know where your character
It depends.
ends?
It depends. I mean, if you're auditioning for a significant film role, your agent's going to ask for the full script. And so you're going to see the story arc.
Right.
But if it's something like an episodic where we're writing episode to episode and they're going to change the character's story arc, the casting director may have an idea of where things are going, but that changes all the time. And so you kind of just have to make some choices. And what I like to say is like specificity is universal, right? If I can do something specific, if I can be really clear in my choices, that makes it a universal experience for the people who are watching you. If I give a like broad lump of clay character, nobody can identify that with that. It doesn't feel like it's a real person. But if I make specific choices, whether or not that's where things are going down the road, it makes someone really clear and definable that then can be directed differently if that's not appropriate. Do you know what I mean?
I do. And I'm curious if there are like characters that jump out to you across your experience, film or TV or theater or whatever. I know you've done it all, commercial, where you've had to make those specific choices, or you did make those specific choices so that not only the audience can kind of go through your filmography and watch those examples, but also just in your mind that, you know, being able to expound upon why those choices worked, or those moments in your mind where you're like, I made a specific choice and it definitely worked. It was definitely the right way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, comedy is always a great place to make something specific that might be a little dangerous. Do you know what I mean?
It's like you've done a lot of drama, but people that really know you know you're freaking hilarious.
I'm a goofball.
And you're like very, very, very funny person. Like, so it's the fact that most of your filmography is drama is interesting, but yeah. So you're bringing comedic tones to drama, or you're saying in comedies making, or both?
I think I always, let's see, for specific things too, I always feel like comedy is a great place to make some bold choices. And you can do this with anything, but I always think that those are good examples. I think making choices is, you know, the key to all of it. But comedy, whenever I have a comedy audition, I put a button on the end, and I don't know if casting directors like this or don't, but it's just a line that I wrote that I came up with.
Oh, really?
Character. It's not in a line. It's more, it's a word. It's a saying. It's it's something that gets you out of the scene, that buttons it up in a way that you feel shows that you know this character, that you're having fun with it. They can see a little bit more. It's, you know, it's the same reason that you do a slate, so they can see you be a human being outside of the character. But anyway, I always really like to add a little button, and it's just like a little zippy thing as the character ending the scene. That's like my little secret, and maybe it's good, maybe it's not, but I usually end up booking it. So people like that.
It feels like a Lucille Ball kind of thing too, just to have feels like she was always using a button.
Yes, exactly. It's like, you know, SNL getting you out of a scene type of like, pop it on there. And, you know, you should choose to do it properly and make sure it's fucking funny if you're going to do it, because. And
you do it different every time? Like, is it?
Well, yeah, because it's whatever's in the scene, you know, it's.
I mean, but do you do the same one every time, or do you make it unique on every audition? Like, is your button?
Oh, yeah. I don't have like a catchphrase.
You have like a catchphrase. That's what I was wondering. Like, do you have like a audition catchphrase? Like words getting around town where you audition. They're like, hey, just listen. When she comes in, she's going to end. She's going to, no matter what she's saying, she's going to end on.
Yeah, I'm dying.
She's going to end, what do? Like, what?
This is a period piece. That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. Why did you make that choice?
Finger guns. I always end with finger guns. No, Chris, no.
I keep my fingers holstered, Sarah.
Keep my fingers in my armpits.
I like to do this and then come like that at it.
Coming in hot. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah,
no.
Instead of finger gun. Yeah. You're more Doc Holliday.
I'm just saying, when a scene ends and you feel like you've gotten to know the character, this is an audition. It's funny. There's room to just say the thing that you would want to say if you were the character. And it's something short and sweet. It's a word. It's a nothing. It's a sound. It's anything that just is, I think it's showing the team that you get it. I get what's happening here. I get why this is funny. And if they hate it, they can pretend like they didn't see it.
I actually agree with it though. Like I agree with it in principle and in philosophy. So basically in a former life, I used to have to do presentations, and sometimes these presentations, these are like 2-hour things, maybe longer. Sometimes they were half a day, and sometimes they'd be bake-offs. And a bake-off, for the uninitiated is where literally the people competing against you are waiting outside the door. So it's almost identical to an audition. And I would always go into those things like, okay, how am I going to, we're all showing the same thing, just also kind of like an audition.
Yep. Same word.
How am I going to get them to remember me? I have to figure out a way for them to remember me. And so I would always write an original story. And they wouldn't remember what I said about the thing. They would remember the story I told.
Yes.
It's a very human thing. And I think putting a button at the end is so clever, because they may not remember the first thing that came out of your mouth, but they'll remember the last thing that came out of your mouth.
That's the girl who did the finger guns.
Yeah. And then you have now suddenly you have a character. Suddenly you're charismatic. You're different. You're she's going to be fun to work with. Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
but
that's an aside, but
cautious with that, right? Like less is more. Let's not be crazy. Let's not make all the casting characters insane with all of our ad-libbing. But if it's appropriate, if it's done right, I love a good button. I think that's fun. Don't
word to the wise, don't turn it into an SNL skit.
No.
So yeah. No. Okay. So back to analysis. So you are doing this on a separate sheet of paper or like a yellow steno pad or
I'm
something?
doing it on this bad boy, and with my little that, and I go zip, zip, zip. So I love to do, I think about going into a scene, and I'm not everybody, but a lot of people come at it this way: goals, obstacles, tactics, right? So what do I want right in that moment with Erica, with Angie? Thing I want more than anything in the world, the thing that is most important to me, the stakes are so high that if I don't get that, I might die. That's the feeling, that's the energy I want to come into it with. Mm-hmm. Mind you, let's say you're going to do all this prep and then throw it out the window and don't think about it. All the prep is just going to live in some ether in the background. We're not going to go in to shooting day and be like, I got to get this thing from her, because that's going to cloud you up, right? We're just going to do the work and then we're going to forget about it. But right, so I come in, what is my goal? I want to save my marriage. Mm-hmm. What are my obstacles? This woman is trying to take my husband from me. I've got obstacles internally too, my own obstacles, my own fears, my own insecurities. What are my tactics? And I love tactics because tactics vary by character so clearly. Like the tactics that a character would use are often, some of them are the same that I personally, Sarah, would use if I was fighting for the same thing. And some of them are so different. And you have to go, okay, that's what that character is going to do, though. I can see it from what's written on the paper. The words that she's saying tell me what tactics she's using. She's using intimidation. She's using threats. She's using emotion. She's using vulnerability. All those are tactics to get to the goal that you want. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, right? So we don't always get the objective that we want, but we really are going to fight to the bitter end for it in a scene.
A great example of this, and I know it's a polarizing example, but a great example of this was the last season of True Detective with Jodie Foster. I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people online really hated it, but I enjoyed it. I liked it, and I'm on the record saying I liked it a lot. And a lot of it was because of what you just said, Sarah. It was like, it was very interesting to watch the tactics of the character based on what they were strong at and what they were weak at, and how they manipulated each other to get what they wanted from each other all the time, based on mistakes that these characters had made in the past. Mistakes you don't get to know about as the audience right up front. You have to kind of watch the whole thing, and then there's a reveal that happens every week that, like, okay, well, this character did that 3 years ago, and therefore this person's able to sort of stand on them and make them feel guilty about this, which allows them to get what they want from them. And these tactics that these characters can use. And I think those, when you write a great character, that they will have those tactics that you can pull out, and you might not even have to search for them in your scene analysis. But if you can do it in your scene analysis, I mean, to your point, Sarah, you're going to have such a 3-dimensional character to sort of bite into and live inside of for a little while.
Yes, that's a great. Yeah, thank you for that. That's really solid. When I think back to the writer's strike and how incredible writers are at creating these characters, that if we trust them as actors, it's all there, right? And so just leaning into the words on the page, I think that's like the most important thing that you can do as an actor, is just really leaning into that.
So I want to talk about the pieces of inspiration you take from other actors. But before we jump to that, I just have one more question about analysis. Yeah. Memorization of your actual lines and memorization of the characters counter to you and their lines. So other characters in the scene that aren't being played by you. In your analysis, are you also going through a process of memorization, or do you wait and do that later and first try to figure out the motivations, goals, tactics of the character? And do you choose to memorize your cast lines as well? So the people you're cast with.
I like to start, at the high level and then zoom into memorization. So working from the project as a whole, my character as a whole, who she is, working into what's happening in the scene, going through the lines and figure out what I'm really saying, what are the goals, what are the obstacles, what are the tactics. And then when I feel clear on what I'm doing, what are the actual lines and how to memorize them.
Got it.
That's my approach. Otherwise, sometimes I think you're going to get bogged down into like words that don't mean anything. I think if you do the memorization first, then it's recitation. You're reciting something versus having built the foundation for them. And that's my preference, but I know everybody works differently. So I love to write out dialogue. I like to write it and write it and write it and write it. I write my lines. I write my scene partner's lines until I've tricked my brain into thinking that I came up with it myself. And that seems to work. Yeah, it gets it past the feeling of this is something that a beautifully talented writer wrote for me, and it's something that my brain came up with just now. So
yeah, that's one of your superpowers, because in our last conversation, again, for those who want to go listen to it, episode 42, you talked about getting into a character's mind by developing a playlist that you think that character will listen to. Like, what is the type of music they listen to? What do they work out to? Yeah. And so you're just incredible control of your mind, or your mind's ability to control itself and put it in places is a superpower, and probably is what made you a great student as well. It's like you can tell yourself and then make your inner self believe it, and then you'll go perform like it. It's really remarkable. So let's talk about this. Go ahead.
This preparation is so good, and you do it and then throw it out, right? Do all of the preparation and then leave it, and don't be precious, and be ready to be flexible. That's what
Yeah. And I think for the lay viewer or listener, because I know that if you're seasoned in acting, you do it a bunch of different ways, and you have your own process that you're comfortable with. But I think from the outside person that's watching this, wanting to learn more about acting, the likely assumption is that the very first thing you do when you get your script is read your lines and try to memorize them. So I think that's very eye-opening. I know that you also like to build a character out of other characters that already exist from other things. Talk to me about that process, and then who are some of the characters that inspire you the most, or actors that inspire you the most, and you like to see their work and take little pieces of what they do and put it into what you do?
So this was an idea that you and I were talking about. I don't know if I'm the first person to call it this, but it's something that I've thought of as being like a magpie. So magpies are like, in theory, little birds that collect shiny things and bring them back to their nest. And I think as actors, we can be that way in watching performances that inspire us. I know a lot of actors are like, oh, I don't have time. I don't watch TV. I don't watch film, which feels like a missed opportunity, because there's so many beautiful performances out there that can give you inspiration. And we're never going to say, I'm copying so-and-so, I'm mimicking so-and-so. We're never going to do that. We're never going to try and replicate somebody else's performance, but we are going to be inspired by the things that we see them doing that makes us want to do it too. I mean, as a film consumer, I'll watch something and go, whoa, we have to watch that scene again. What the hell did they just do? That was incredible. The thing with the face and the words and and just watching it, it just, it gets you fired up. So I'll watch something, and I'll watch a performance a few times to see technically what I think is being done. But when, we talk about putting together playlists and things like that, I played, you and I met through another version of you, and I played the same version. I played different versions of the same character.
Of the same person, yeah.
Right? So, and going into it, I thought, gosh, this is going to be hard. Like, who's done this before? And I looked at Tatiana Maslany and her work with Orphan Black. And so she was really a great resource. She plays clones that don't know each other and then meet as adults.
Mm-hmm.
And did it so clearly. And I thought, gosh, how is she doing this? Where she's bouncing around in the same way that I was bouncing between different versions of the same character in a short amount of time. How do you keep them straight? And so she put together playlists. She put together animals for each character. She put together a color scheme for each character. So I really borrowed from that when I was working on the multiple versions of my characters. But then something so like technical, I watched Alison Brie in Glow, and I loved her in that. I thought she was so good. And she did this eyelid flicker, and it's something that she kind of does. And it like took my breath away. I was like, that's beautiful. It was like the answer to a question. It was like, I'm not crying. My breath is taken away. It was the tiniest flicker, and maybe nobody else noticed, or maybe everybody sees it and just doesn't even verbalize it. But I thought Alison Brie's eyelid flicker. Or
internalize it.
In Glow. Yes. In Glow was just, it knocked me off my feet. And so I was like, I want my version of that eyelid flicker. Right. So I'm not going to mimic. I'm not going to copy. I'm not going to do it the same way she did. But I worked on finding this physical manifestation of anxiety and fear and sadness that wasn't just a tear. That was more. And I really worked on it and played with it. And now when I see it show up, I've seen it on camera, I've seen it in the edit, and I'm so happy. It was something that she inspired me to do, and I made it my own.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's so cool. I do have a quick question. I've never asked you this, and I don't know why I haven't asked you this.
I'm scared.
Well, going back to your mention of another version of you where you play all these versions of the same character, Suzette Larkin. Which Suzette is closer to real Sarah? Is there a Suzette that is most like you in real life?
Probably the one at the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet Suzette, is that what we called her?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was Sweet Suzette. But maybe Sweet Suzette was the opening Suzette as well. I can't remember which one was officially.
That's OG
Sweet Suzette. Yeah, that's OG Suzette. But the thing about Sweet Suzette was that she, just to call back what we said a moment ago, she had tactics. She wanted what she wanted. She didn't care that, the Dixie character was in this relationship with our character being played by CJ Perry. She had this sort of A-type personality, get up and go about her.
Yeah. And Enneagram 3.
Yeah. She was sweet. She was sweet. And that Suzette's in probably my favorite scene in the movie, just about, and he's just shot beautifully. You guys acted it so well. So yeah, it's good to know. And I don't know, like it goes back to some of the things you've sort of breadcrumbed throughout this conversation, which is like, okay, some of the tactics that your Will Trent character uses are tactics you would use, in your real life. And then some of them aren't. Exactly. And I suppose I should ask you what tactics are similar. Are you passive like that? If that were happening in your real life?
I have no chill.
God forbid or whatever, but
No, I have no chill. I am, if nonchalant is like laid back, I'm chalant. I'm extra chalant. Super chalant. No, I have no chill. I am the opposite of passive aggressive. I'm just aggressive. No, I'm not aggressive, but I am assertive. And I don't think I could ever keep a secret, like not talk to my husband about something like that. I'm not saying I'd burn the house down if my partner ever cheated on me, but I don't think I could directly talk to the woman and not to him.
Yeah. I think I'm the same way. I don't view, the spectrum of human behaviors, within like a really narrow Overton window. I view human beings as like this animal that civilized from the mountaintops and the hills and the prairies. And that literally was doing everything under the sun with no laws or rules. And then now has this sort of societal narrowed Overton window that it has to live inside of. And whenever you go outside of it, there's this giant price to pay. I think when you burn the house down, it's because of public embarrassment or something like that. It goes into the shame realm. But if it's just between, two people in your household, there's a bit of just let me understand this a little better. And are we going to keep going? I think that's the number one question I would have is, are we going to just keep doing it? Are we good? Are we good? Are we going to keep going or should we end this?
Yeah.
How deep is this problem? That's kind of where I'm at.
Season 2 of Will Trent. What is happening? Exciting stuff.
All right. You heard it from her.
Okay. So what
can we do tactics though? Like, can we jump into not tactics, but techniques? Like, is there anything you do like breathing wise? Is there any training you go back to from acting class? Can we do that? Or did you have something you wanted to do in front of that?
No, I'm not like I think workshops are fun for that type of thing, but I'm really not like a breathing exercise person. That's not me. That's like, sometimes we can edit. Let's cut this part.
That's fine.
Those assholes.
No, that was great. It was honest. It was authentic. I think it's great. I think it's fun.
We'll see.
You're totally cool. I just think if you're not that, okay, so you don't meditate.
Yeah.
Great. Not everybody has to meditate to have like the next $1 billion idea.
No, I'm too anxious.
Cliche, right? Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say was when you bring up this idea of characters that have different tactics than you would choose as a person, the character having different tactics than you would choose as your own self, I think parlays really well into this, into empathy, right? And that thread feels really strong, right? So if we're talking about
empathy,
we're talking about characters making different tactical choices than you as a human being would do, then we've got to really lean into empathy. And I think that's probably the cornerstone. If we're going to talk about scene study, empathy, observing other actors that you like, those are kind of some three cornerstones I would think are really important. So empathy, we're going to empathize with our character. We're not going to judge our character. They're going to make different tactical choices than we would, and we're not going to hold that against them. And I think that's key, right? It's easy. It's a character like Gina is, you could judge for certain things. I can't even imagine how challenging it is not to judge a character that's even more complex, even more challenging, but we're not going to judge our character. We're going to lean into the empathy of our character, empathizing with our character. And that's going to help our audience empathize with our character. We're going to, what we said before, we're going to give them 3 dimensions. We're not going to make them this like lump of clay. We're going to make them really specific. And so then that furthers the audience's empathizing with our character, which makes them care about the story. They're not going to care about the story if they don't care about the character. People you can watch shows where nobody is redeeming. And I find those shows really hard. But if you can empathize with the character, even if it's an anti-hero, that's going to bring the audience along for the journey. The other key for empathy, I think, is the responsibility that actors and filmmakers and storytellers have for fostering empathy in their audience members for stories that are different than their own, right? So I like to borrow from, my children's school has a diversity program that talks about windows and mirrors. And so if we think about the power of film and television to offer windows and mirrors, if it's a window, I want to look out and I want to see people who are different than me, who've had different life experiences, who come from different places, different stories, who look different, who sound different. That's important for me to see that from whatever town I live in. And especially people who are more isolated, to be able to see things that are different from them and what power that has to change minds and hearts, life-changing. And then we also want mirrors. We want to see reflections of ourselves. We want to see people who look like us and sound like us and talk like us and who've had experiences like us, and how important that is to make us feel validated and to make us feel seen. When I see a complex, messy woman that's real and authentic in film or TV, I'm immediately connected to that story. I think that that's exciting and interesting. So I like to think about windows and mirrors for film and television too, and the power of empathy with that.
Windows and mirrors. I'm going to write that down so you guys heard it here from Sarah herself. Windows and mirrors, got to have them. And, you know, immediately things start coming directly like to my mind. There was a series that just came out on Amazon. I think like maybe not just came out, but maybe it was 3 months ago, maybe more. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And that is, and again, I think it might be polarizing, but first of all, I thought it was just shot beautifully, unbelievable, and really acted well. There was some writing that was a little, I think maybe far-fetched just because it doesn't feel like those characters would survive in certain situations that they were in. But it wasn't about that. It was about these two people and their relationship and the complexity of their relationship based on the job that they have. And what does it say about each of them that they were selected to do this job where they're basically government assets, right? And hitmen. And what does that mean for their relationship? So season 1's done. I'm waiting for season 2. But what's interesting about that and sort of apropos to what you said is here you have a Japanese woman, a black man playing these roles. Obviously minorities. Not everybody's going to see themselves in those characters, but the story and the job, and the world they're in is a mirror. Right. So the characters are the window. The world ends up being a mirror instead of the other way around. And even the way that these characters talk and dress is really smart because it's also a mirror. So you're seeing yourself in the world, you know, the world. And you get to, look out the window and learn something about these characters. It becomes a true character piece. So, shout out to, Donald Glover and the show, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Again, I don't know if everybody loves it, but it was fun for me. It was a fun watch, for sure. And so I just want to be super clear here. Like you're figuring out windows and mirrors and to get to empathy. So, but nothing, I've seen actors sort of, manipulate their mouth, get loose with sort of the vowels and consonants. So they're speaking the right way. Obviously you don't do any breathing stuff. I've seen actors do repeat back exercise. None of those things come into play for you. That doesn't work for you, right?
A lot of that is Meisner, from my understanding, like repetition. And I know a lot of actors really, really like that. That just hasn't been something that I've pursued as much. I don't know. Sometimes I think imagination feels like enough for me, just really living and giving enough time. The more time, the better, right? If I can get a script and really just like marinate it and live in that person's world for as long as I can, I think that feels like enough.
It's really funny you bring that up too. I just read an article yesterday that was talking about different brain types, and certain brains can see a world in their head, and other brains can only imagine a world in their head. And then other brains can't imagine or see a world in their head. Like it has to be in front of them in a picture, or they can draw it out, but they can't, or it has to be drawn for them and placed in front of them, or they have to physically experience it through travel or whatever it may be.
Oh, wow.
But there are certain, but filmmaking types and actors, they can either see the whole world in their head or imagine it, in their head. But they definitely aren't afflicted with the not being able to do either one. So I think that's kind of spot on and great. So let's talk about, speaking of empathy.
I do like to do, I like to think about moment before, and that's something on set too that really helps you stay.
Moment before. Let me write that.
Before,
what's moment before?
What happened? right? We're going to say action. I wasn't born when you said action, right? I existed before that. I existed the 5 minutes before that. I existed the day before that. I existed. So I think really reflecting, like, where has my character been right before here? Some directors like to let you kind of talk into it, improving as character. We've done that a couple times on Will Trent, where we've had a casual conversation and then said action and then kind of worked our way to the actual dialogue.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. But yeah, so we want to really believe where we are. And so I like to think about, the moment before, what happened right before this, where did I come from? If it's not written, and usually it is, then remembering that and thinking about that and creating it so that we don't have someone that was just poofed into existence when the director's action.
Yeah, it's spot on because, inside baseball on podcasting.
Yeah.
A good podcaster always does the moment before, always. Yeah. If you click record or press record or however you record, as soon as the guest gets there, you're going to have a shitty conversation. It's going to be a bad podcast. You have to even if it's hidden within housekeeping or whatever, you have to get that person loose and warmed up, and you have to get them into a place where they know they're safe.
That totally makes sense to me.
Yeah. And, being in journalism, that was my major, one of my majors, journalism and marketing. A lot of times an interviewer will just do a cold open of an interview or a cold interview. So sit down, lav mic on, cameras on you, and go. And that feels really uncomfortable. And sometimes you will do that if you're interviewing, let's say, an O.J. Simpson, right? So, famously, he'd be interviewed this way after the trial because the interviewer wouldn't want OJ to have the chance to ask, "Hey, what are we going to talk about? What is that kind of thing?"
Gotcha interview type of thing,
right. And the conditions of the interview were already given probably to him and his agent manager in advance, and it happens sometimes. I'm sure Gayle King didn't tell R. Kelly everything they were going to cover in the interview. You just sit down and do it. But podcasts, especially if it's a friend, isn't like that. I do want to talk about the yes ladder. Can we talk about the yes ladder?
What's the yes ladder?
Because we talked to, look, empathy wise, I just want to add on to this and get your thoughts, because I do think that actors do this. Now, the yes ladder is a concept from copywriting, and copywriting, for those who don't know, is just writing to sell, the words you use to sell a thing. And there's an art to it. There's a craft to it. It's probably more of an important job today than it has almost ever been. And there's a correlation between copywriting and screenwriting, very clear correlation. Many screenwriters were formerly ad copywriters.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You're selling a script, you're selling a character, you're selling toothpaste.
My background was in public. I worked in PR for a while, so I wrote press releases and corporate communications materials and all those things that I feel directly connects to selling a character. Yeah, so I get that.
That's exactly right, and that's a type of copywriting as well. Yeah. If you're going to do press releases, if they're very, very corporate, those are a lot different than creative PR and press releases. But anyway. In that is called the yes ladder, and it's based on human psychology. And it basically says that a person is more likely to say yes to a big thing if they've already said yes to a series of small things.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think I have this sense that actors do this. And the first thing they do is they get sort of the audience to say yes. And you mentioned earlier about authenticity being so important. So first you come in and you're authentic, then you need to be a mirror for them. So if you can pass the mirror test, that's the next small yes.
Yeah.
Right? The audience is I can see myself in this. So now they're listening to you. Now you have their attention. And then at the end of the story, the movie, whatever, you basically are asking for the big yes, which is, I want you to cry now. I want you to laugh now. I want you to think and reflect on your own life based on this story, this fiction I showed you.
Yeah.
And you get the audience to slowly commit. I think, okay, so that's one ladder. There's a second ladder.
Writing, right. A lot of that is we're gonna thank the writer for giving the actor those moments. You know, the writer is trusting the actor and saying, okay, we're going to have a little small thing here and then a medium thing here and then a big thing here. And you have to do the work on the small thing so that the payoff works on the big thing at the end. But yeah, so much of that is from the writer's gifting, I think, of the actor too. Yeah, exactly. And I think people who write TV and film really well are also great copywriters, almost for sure. I could see that.
They could sell cereal. They could sell a character. It doesn't matter what they're selling. They're probably really great at it. And they understand how words work together. They understand tempo and timing, and they don't get caught up in the rules of English and grammar. They get, you know, like, Toni Morrison is a master of this, right? Writing in the dialect of the character and how they should really speak in that beat and that rhythm and getting those small yeses. And then you get a big yes at the end of almost all of her stories. I think the second yes ladder is a more meta one. And it comes back to some things I've heard from other actors, including yourself, which is the intense listening that has to happen of your castmate when they're saying things to your character.
Oh yeah.
And you're not waiting, you're listening actively. And there's this interesting thing that can happen when the acting is really incredible, which is you can get your cast member to start nodding yes as well.
Oh, physically nodding. Yeah.
Because they're listening to you. The cast and crew around watching it, when they get frozen and forget to do their job sometimes because you're so, you're so, when I was in music, we used to call it letting God in the room, but it's like this moment that happens where you've reached the peak, the pinnacle of your abilities, and you've gotten these small yeses, and now they're ready to just give, you know, whatever you need them to give you, they'll give you. And these two yes ladders, I think are so critical. So one is, I'll agree with you because I didn't think about that until you said it. The first yes ladder is really driven by the writer, and it's up to performers to perform those words in an authentic way that mirrors, right? And gives windows, like you said. And then that second ladder, really is straight from people as talented as you, or, you know, like that are going to perform it in a way where their castmates, are drug into the scene in a way that they wouldn't have been had they not been actively listening to you, and you demanded that through your performance.
I love that. Yeah.
And I think it's all, that to me is a way to grab empathy in a lot of different places. The yes ladder.
Okay. I'm borrowing the yes ladder. That's great.
Yeah. Because to get somebody to agree with you, right, they have to empathize with you.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, and if we're going to talk about empathy more, right? So what can we do as actors, as creatives, so that we are more full people to come to our work and to come to our craft, so that when someone asks you what you like to do, well, I'm an actor. Yeah. I'd like to, I mean, I don't use the word people person because there's like a joke about like cannibals or people person. But what a joy to like people. I really like people. I like humans. I like learning about people, like being curious about people. I like getting to know people. I love people as like a whole, like we're weird and lumpy and beautiful and strange and angry and sad. And, you know, we're so complicated. And if you can look at a person as like a baby that learned to put pants on, you will like love everybody. Like, look at you. Look what you did. You should be
Lumpy.
so proud of yourself.
By the way, Lumpy is wild. Lumpy is a wild adjective.
Look at people. They're lumpy. And I don't mean just physically. I just mean like there's just so much to us. We're just weird. We're like tender and vulnerable and put up our walls and all the things. And No, so I love humans. I love humans as a whole. But I think that takes energy and work to come at it from that vision and not let yourself fall into misanthropy, right? Yeah. To really focus on like how lovely people are. And so I think that's a job for creatives to lean into the beauty of people and to be curious about people, about specific people that you're with. Like put down the phone, ask people questions, be curious, learn about jobs that are unlike yours. I met a guy the other day that his entire work was sports card trading and Pokemon card trading. And I was like, tell me everything.
One of my best friends does that.
It's wild. It's wild. So you like travel the country doing this, and what a treat. I met an actor that was also like a professional food eater.
like Joey Chestnut or like Kobayashi
Chestnut, but this guy didn't specialize in hot dogs. He specialized in like something else, like a hamburger. I don't know what it was. He specialized in another food. And you're like, I gotta know like what drives somebody into that industry. What are the tips? And he was like, you could do it if you want. You don't have to be a big person. I was like, I don't want to do that, but I'm really happy that you found this thing that you're really good at. And so these are just silly examples, but I think really fostering your ability to be empathetic by connecting with people and being curious.
Shout out to Brian Comer, Cards and Capes, selling cards and comic books.
Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to Brian Comer. Shout out to Joey Chestnut and Kobayashi and all the people. Shout out to the movie Stand By Me, where like the idea of dipping meat and bread into water and then sucking that down makes me want to hurl. But shout out to you. I got the shimmy shakes. Shout out to you folks out there that do that. We need all types, to Sarah's point. We need this collage. We need the lumpy collage of society to sort of continue to be characters in the right stories. Everybody kind of has to exist. Okay. I hit you? Yes, they are. Ooh. Okay. Can I hit you with some rapid fire questions that don't require rapid fire answers?
Okay.
So it's a bit of an oxymoron in that way, or maybe I'm just a moron, but we're going to ask some questions here.
Stretch it out.
Okay. There's a scene in The Reason 2020 shot movie called The Reason with Louis Gossett Jr. and Tatiana, which we'll talk a little bit more about in this conversation. You go from dry face to tears streaming down your face and dripping off your chin. This is like actual serious crying. The camera doesn't cut away. How did you get there? What were you thinking about? How did you get to that level of emotion in that moment, and how many takes of that? Was that a one taker, or how did you get through that?
We filmed that in 2016. So I'm going to use my memory and try and jump back to it. Oh,
wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was secretly pregnant too.
Oh.
And
the best kind of pregnant.
I knew.
Somebody always knows when somebody's pregnant.
I'm like obsessed with those shows where people are like, I had a baby and I didn't know I was pregnant. How?
I don't understand it myself.
They're like, I thought I was feeling nauseous. I ate a big burrito. I don't get it. So I was secretly pregnant. I mean, everyone knew, so it wasn't really that big of a deal, but my character wasn't pregnant. And also what I remember thinking at the time was like, why don't they cast pregnant people to play pregnant people, right? Very rarely is an actor actually pregnant that's playing pregnant. And I learned, because by the time that I was like visibly looked like pregnant in my belly, all of me was like pregnant. And I was like, yeah. All of you, your face is pregnant, your feet are pregnant, everything is pregnant. Versus like in film and TV, those jerks. Just they want like a beautiful, like slender woman that like stuffed a basketball under her shirt. Like that's what's appealing for film and TV. This is a chip that I have, and if I ever shoot something with a pregnant character, she's going to be really pregnant.
She's going to be really.
I want her cankles. I want her swollen feet. I want her puffy face. I want all of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got off on a tangent there, but
it's okay.
I was pregnant. I was not quite visibly pregnant, but pregnant.
Shout out to husband Dan. For making you secretly pregnant. Okay, go ahead.
So and no offense to people who use like tear sticks, that's just not something I've really done. I think I used it once when I was like not expecting to cry on a set. Mm-hmm. But when I know what's going into the scene, I usually really focus on some words that are going to pull it. So this is sounds kind of funny, but like I have a really good imagination, so I focus on what's happening. Usually there's a reason that you're crying. I mean, if someone's just asking you to cry without like without the character having earned it, I think there's enough argument to say, no, we don't need to do that. But if the character's earned it, if the moment's earned it, like in that particular scene, her child just passed away after a fight with cancer and her whole world is falling in, and I was pregnant. And so I try not to replace a character's story with my own story, but I can use my imagination. I'm pregnant. I love this unborn child. I know what that feels like to love a child, even though I've never held this child. And taking that feeling and just expanding on it 100 times, 10,000 times, and leaning into that feeling and allowing your imagination to go to the worst possible place. That is how like we get to the route. We used, I want to say we shot that fully, and then they're like, no, that version didn't work. And so we shot it again.
Holy crap.
May have done it twice, but I think it was just twice. I can't be certain because I like blacked out basically, but, we'd gotten there. I just stayed really focused. I really believed everything that was happening. And that brings its own challenges because when you're done, I mean, I was having like a full panic attack, right? You have to you have to tell your body that things are okay. I shot a scene with Jake McLaughlin where our character, it's already come out. It's in episode 2 of Will Trent season 2. And, our characters are fighting for each other and we're having this argument that's intense. And I end up crying there too. And at the end, one of the PAs is like, are you okay? I'm like vibrating. And I was like, oh yeah, my body thinks my marriage is imploding. Like my body doesn't know that it's on a soundstage.
Wow.
Right now, right? Yeah. And so there's that, you're telling your body one thing, you're telling your body that your world is imploding and your life is falling apart. And the worst thing that could possibly ever happen to you, a child dying, has just happened. And then you have to go backwards to be like, hey, here we are. It's okay. Ground ourselves in the moment. This was all pretend. You are well. We're having fun here. This is an imagination exercise. I think leaning into the other character is key. That scene was with Alan Powell, who I love. He's a good friend.
Love Alan. Shout out to Alan Powell.
Shout out to Alan Powell. He's so good. He's a great producer.
And a guy who fights the good fight as his MO. So
yes.
Gotta love Alan.
Yes. His Christmas film is so good. So good. So leaning into him, leaning into his words and what he's saying. And I like to, what I hinted at before is like, if I have a scene that's really emotional, there's going to be a word and I don't always choose it. Sometimes it chooses itself, a word that you hit, and it's just going to be like a diamond that you have packed with all of the weight of what's happening. And when you get to that word, it's like, you can't help but cry. So I think building the emotion and the feeling into certain words that just make sense to being painful to say. Like, someone once told me, drunk characters you play a drunk character by pretending like you're not drunk. Like drunk people aren't like, hey, how are we going? Like drunk person's like, I'm fine.
Oh, I see.
I'm fine. Right. Yeah. And when your character cries, no one's like, I just can't wait to shoot salt water out of my face. You know, most people are trying not to cry. And I think fighting that is an exercise that gets you to the place, too, at least does for me. Like, oh, please don't. And it does anyway.
That's a beautiful answer. I really appreciate you sharing that, because I know part of you, because of your strong imagination, had to put yourself once again back in the place that you were imagining this terrible stuff. But you did mention like having this panic attack afterwards, and you've been described, or you've described yourself, been quoted as saying you are, 50-50 fierce lioness and anxious meerkat. And so,
it's from my Instagram page.
What things turn you into a lioness, and what things turn you into an anxious meerkat?
That's so funny. I feel like I'm protective of I've got 2 little kids, and I'm, really protective of them and their well-being and their hearts, and just, gosh, this world is a tricky one. So I think I'm a lioness for that. Sometimes I feel like I'm like trying to navigate the, like, we talked about this idea of like pretending like you're chalant, like, oh, I'm so chill. Look how chill I am. I'm never chill. So I think I'm pretty good about like speaking up for some things when I'm passionate about them and I care about them. But also I'm like, I say I'm an anxious meerkat because I'm like, where's the fire? Like, what happened? Is something wrong? What is plan B? Like, I'm very much a planner that goes into like my prep for my characters too. Like I want to know worst case scenarios. I want to know procedures, protocols. Where's the fire exit? I just want to know everything. People are like, it's too much information. I'm like, I'll be the judge of that. You give me everything. Just put it at me. I'll wait through it. I know a lot of people like that, actually. Like people who like subconsciously identify where all the exit doors are. Like, yeah, I'm keeping an eye on things.
Like people who like overly thin slice people, to quote like a Malcolm Gladwell theme. It's like they're like people who talk about the energy in a room before, like as soon as they walk in, like, oh, the energy in it.
Stop! Are you reading my diary? I think part of that is like being an empath too, right? Like, yeah, if you're sad, I'm sad, and if I can feel that coming from you, that helps as an actor for sure, right?
Yeah, no question about it.
Leaning into letting people's feelings affect you.
It's great. And by the way, producer Papa Bear, can you find out for sure? Now I'm curious. I have to know: is chalant the opposite of nonchalant?
No.
Or is chalant just chalant, and then we say nonchalant the way people say, regardless and irregardless, and like one is bad grammar and one is correct. So please tell me, like in the chat or something, like what is the opposite of chalant?
Is not a word.
Or what is the opposite of nonchalant then?
Well, what is the
I'm going to let producer Papa Bear figure it out in the background.
Yeah.
Because
Really?
We can't like sidebar this whole conversation so that we find out
really anxious.
What chalant is. Yeah.
Really anxious.
Yeah, really anxious. Anxious might be, that might be the opposite of, that might be the, what's it called? Not the synonym, but the
antonym.
The antonym. Thank you. Brain fart.
But I do like when I meet new people though, and like in social settings, I'm like, look how chill I am. I'm like so chill. I'm never.
But
chill.
You're not chill.
Zero.
Maybe. Well, I don't want to get into that. And then I'll have to psychoanalyze myself. But okay. All right. So if you could create a kit, an actor kit, you said you don't use the tear stick. What do you use? If you had to put together like a 2 or 3 item, 4 item kit that
Oh, yeah.
You know, every actor should
Like
sort
that.
of buy or invest in. It could be anything. It could be a book. It could be a tool. It could be a course. It could be a work. It could be anything. What would be your actor toolkit?
Yeah, I'll show you. You just get yourself one of these. You can get the old school one. That's just black
For
and
those
white.
on the audio side, she is describing and showing a notebook, a coil bound or ring bound notebook and a pen.
Do you need, what's it called when you like make annoying like sound effects? What is that? ADR?
Yeah, ASMR.
ASMR.
Yeah.
Should I do the nails?
That's nice. That's gonna make somebody have a car wreck.
Especially for me. No offense, but I don't feel that.
Me either.
No.
Me either.
Yes. Okay. So I feel like if I had to pack like a little go bag to my actor desert island, there's a world where like we're on a desert island, we have all the food and toothbrushes that we need, but we just need things to act with. That's a world.
Yeah.
Yes. I would grab my notebook and a great pen and use that to write out my notes for my character, my thoughts for my character. I would use it to write out my lines. So I would grab those two things. And, on this actor island, we have electricity. So I would grab my sound machine because I travel a lot. So when I travel for work, I'm like a terrible sleeper, hence the like anxious meerkat. But like I'm really not good at sleeping in new places or strange places. So I always
Me either.
My sound machine. Yeah, it's hard. Who are these psychos that like put their head on a pillow and go to sleep?
Not a thing.
How are you going to solve the world's problems?
Not a thing. Not a thing at all.
Not a thing.
Yeah. Especially if I'm alone.
No.
I can almost never sleep in a hotel easily the first night.
Like 100 milligrams of melatonin. Maybe not 100. A lot of melatonin and a sound machine. And
a kilo of melatonin. Machine.
And gum. Okay, here's a little. This is one.
Okay, gum.
Thing.
Interesting. That
I get. You know, I'd like to say I'm pretty good. My anxiety lives outside of the set, unless But if we get on set and things are feeling like, the anxiety snuck in. I left the door open and the anxiety snuck in. I think chewing some gum. My anxiety lives in my jaw. That's where I get tight. Some people's anxiety lives in their chest. Some people's anxiety shows up in their back, some in their stomach. So I think identifying where like the physical manifestation of your anxious mind goes. Yeah. And maybe it's your hands, maybe it is whatever it is for you, finding something that can work you out of that. So if I bring gum and my anxiety starts to sneak in, I'm like, no, I'm going to chew some gum. We're going to loosen up that physical spot and work that out. So yeah.
All right. So for those listening and watching, we have pen and pad, white noise / sound machine, and gum to release the stress and tension that you might have. Are there any books you'd like to recommend? Filmmakers are people too, like I always say, and or like we always say. So these can be acting books, these can be filmmaking books, but they can just be books that improve your life as well. So no rules in this.
Yeah, no, I think you can Google like 10 acting books for actors who want to act good too, basically, and you'll get like, my favorite movie is Zoolander, right? So it's like Zoolander. Okay. So I think you'll get like the go-to list of those things, and I've read a bunch of them, and they're really helpful. So I won't waste time going into that. I think that there's some great ones that you can search for. What I really like, I think this is probably best for filmmakers too, is a book called Big Magic. So good. There's a few things that I think about a lot from it. And one of them is ideas as being like these living things that are almost like a fairy or something like that. And this idea is going to come to you, and it wants to be born, and it wants to be here on this planet manifested. And it's going to come to you first, Chris, and it's going to say, okay, here's what it is. And it's a screenplay, it's a film, it's a piece of artwork, it's a character, it's whatever it is, whatever your creativity is. And it's going to give you time to bring it to life. And it's going to nudge you gently, and it's going to nudge you less gently. And if you ignore it long enough, it's going to say best wishes, good friend, and it's going to move on to somebody else to be born. And so you'll have an idea and you'll ignore it. And then 2 years later, you're like, that son of a bitch stole my idea. You didn't steal your idea. You're lazy and forgot about it.
That's right.
Your idea went to somebody else. So that's a paraphrasing Big Magic, but I really like
All
that.
right. I'm going to pick that up. I'm a
it's so good.
reader myself, and I do not know that one. I'm going to check it out.
And another
that son of a bitch stole mine.
Another thing.
You almost sounded like Jimmy Stewart.
I'll give you my Captain Hepburn impression. Oh, jeez. She also talks about fear. Something I love, right? Because fear is like the death. Oh gosh, death of everything. Death of creativity. Death of doing. Death of authenticity shuts you down. You can't do anything if you feel like fear wins. So she talks about fear going on a road trip with you and creativity. And you're like, we can't kick fear out of the car. Fear is there to protect you. Fear, it thinks that there's a lion coming to get you. And fear is like, let me help you with that. You know, we were once these primordial beings, and it still thinks that we've got to worry about lions coming to get us. And so fear is rooting for your best interest. It just doesn't know that it's 2024 and it doesn't have to work so hard. Yeah. So you and creativity are on this road trip, and the author of Big Magic talks about like telling fear that it has to sit in the back seat. It can come along, it can sit in the back seat, but it can't choose the direction. It can't choose where you're going, and it certainly can't even adjust the music.
Right. It has no agency.
It has no agency. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I'm going to pick it up, and everyone listening and watching should do likewise. You had the joy of meeting and performing and being alongside Dolly Parton, who's like the, I guess, the queen of America, like America's monarch, if we were to have one. So outside of Dolly, is there a person in film you'd like to be introduced to? And if so, what makes that person special?
Let me tell you my Dolly Parton story. So I did a Dollywood.
How tall is Dolly Parton?
Like 3'11". I mean, she's like a peanut. I don't know her specs. 3'11" and like, shaped like an hourglass. She's so lovely. Wow. Talk about someone that is like, it's meeting like it's not even like, there's no way to say it. You just want to think, please let this person be everything that I've dreamed of and more. And what pressure that must be on her. But she came in with such agency and such generosity. I feel like knowing that this is a lifetime experience for people who are meeting her.
Yeah.
So we shot this commercial for Dollywood, which if you haven't been to Dollywood, it is awesome.
I love Dollywood.
It's so fun. And way cheaper than Disney World. But we shot it. It was a Christmas commercial. So we didn't shoot in Dollywood. We shot on a set that was like a home that had been rented. So it was like a Christmas party. And so it was me and a couple other actors, and Dolly came and walked up, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Dolly Parton. And she puts her hand out, and I said, hi, I'm Sara Antonio. So nice to meet you. And she says, hi, I'm Reba McEntire. I was like, Dolly Parton is hilarious. I mean, I knew, but like to have this moment, you're like sweating bullets. I'm about to meet Dolly Parton, and I start laughing. She's like, actually, I'm going to go surprise Reba tonight on the stage at, what's the big stage? Opry, the Grand Opry.
Oh, the Grand Old Opry?
Reba at the Grand Old Opry tonight. She's getting honored, and I'm going to pop out and surprise her. And I'm riffing with Dolly now. So I was like, well, I won't tell her, Dolly. She looked me dead in the eye and goes, I didn't think you would.
Dolly! Now I love her more.
I love her so much. And I got to chat with her about the work that she does with her Imagination Library. It's such a passion for her. If you don't know, she basically provides free books to kids 5 years and under. So for the first 5 years of a child's life, free books. throughout the state of Tennessee and a few other states. I don't remember exactly where it operates. I know it's in Florida too, but it's really cool. It's a really cool program that she does. And then she also handed out individually ornaments. She has like a coat of many colors ornament, and she personally gave us each one just for working on the commercial with her. So she was so cool. Everything that you could dream of and more. So sweet.
So there is no one else you want to meet.
That's it. Nothing could beat that.
Yeah,
that's it.
That. Yeah.
No, we were talking the other day about people that would make me like, I would get like a little weird because I've worked with a lot of celebrities, and so many people are so much more down to earth than you expect. And everybody wants the same thing for the project to go well. And, I just auditioned for, Sylvester Stallone's new show. It's not that new. It's his second season.
Yeah. The one with his daughters?
Yeah. Yes. Why am I blanking on it? Tulsa King.
Yeah.
Is that it with his daughters?
I don't know. Producer Papa Bear, what's the Sylvester Stallone show? Let us know.
It's Tulsa King.
Yeah.
He plays a mobster. And I was like sweating auditioning for it, just thinking how I would be in a scene with Sylvester Stallone. I don't know why that like hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, it's like Sylvester Stallone. It just felt like next level. Like what?
I think people view him as like this mega star, like OG.
Yeah, OG. It's Rocky. It's freaking Rocky.
Rocky. And well, that's what I was just going to say. It's not wrong. He is that. He is a mega star. He is a superstar, but he's also an indie filmmaking OG. Like Rocky, he bet on himself the same way George Lucas did to make Rocky. And so if you're an independent film, like Sylvester Stallone's like, he's one of the gods. He's in the Mount Rushmore of like indie film successes. So shout out to Sylvester Stallone and to the new show. And I hope you get it, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I don't even like, I know you're going to get it. What are we talking about?
No, but I just mean like, there's people that you go, gosh, I would love to work with that person. I think that's also going back to like being a consumer of film and TV. Everything Amy Sherman Palladino touches, and she's not an actor, but any project she touches, I think is like spectacular. Yeah. I just think it's so funny and so good, so talented.
Yeah. And keep us posted on that for sure. I mentioned the sort of phrase we've been repeating over the last year, because I think it's just so important, especially coming out of COVID, that filmmakers are people too. And this is an industry, as I've mentioned in the past, that's full of rejection and competition and no's, a lot more no's than yeses. You just talked about auditioning and hoping you get this thing. How do you what tools do you use to deal with the times you get in a dark place, or you get down on yourself, or start to believe that you can't achieve what you set out to achieve? Or is there anything you do, any methods, techniques, tools, any processes you go through to get yourself out of a dark place?
Yeah. Well, these are great questions. I'm going to tie this to some great advice I received from a friend and acting coach, William Arnold. He challenged me to put my goals and dreams in present tense, right? So it's easy to say like, I will do this. I'm going to do this. I want to do that. He challenged me to like be really clear and specific and current. And for me, that really ties into the belief that God wants great things for me. And if I can remember that and speak about my dreams as if they've already happened, then that keeps your eyes on the prize, right? I don't think there's any secret magic to it. I think that it's waking up every day and believing that that thing is real, that God wants that for you. And that then orients your choices and orients your focus so that everything that you're doing is aligning towards something that is already real. So for a while, I was going to try and show it to you, but I changed it because I've moved on, or because I've achieved it. But my alarm, on Apple, you can set your alarm to have a name. And so the name of my alarm after I had that conversation with William Arnold was I am a recurring character on a wonderful TV show. And I was specific because I didn't want a recurring character on a show that I wasn't excited about. I wanted to be a recurring character on a wonderful TV show, something that I wanted to jump up and like shout to the world about. And I woke up to that every day for a while until Will Trent came along and booked that role. And then it was real. I think it had always been real. I'd always believed that God wanted that for me and the universe wanted that for me, but it kept my eyes on the prize so that when I came into an audition that was a recurring character for a wonderful TV show, I knew that that was already real for me, whether it's this moment or not. I'm coming in with that energy and that confidence, and that shines through.
Yeah, it's great advice. So for those wanting a little recap of that, I mean, the process is really about creating, finding a way to create your dreams in your head in a way and imagine your dreams in your head in a way where they are in the present tense and they are hyper specific. You don't want to be sort of overly broad, and because then you can't trick yourself into sort of the behaviors needed to go chase a thing that's not specific. So I think that's really important what you said about specificity and then using present tense. So shout out to William Arnold, acting coach, for giving you that advice. And I know that you've also got advice and been influenced a lot by the late, great Louis Gossett Jr. And he just passed away, 87 years old. What a great life. What a great career. And I just wanted you to share a few words about your experience with him and things he taught you and what kind of man he was.
What a joy to be able to work with him. We worked on The Reason together. And again, I was not so secretly pregnant, and he called me Little Mama, and we got to spend 2 months filming in Augusta, Georgia together. I tried to be like a sponge when around him, and I think that's great advice for any actor working with someone that they admire. I knew who he was. I knew his work. He was the first Black man to win an Oscar for a supporting character role, and he won it for An Officer and a Gentleman. He's so good. So I knew that going in, and just took notes on his demeanor, how he treated people, who he was. I mean, he's beyond talented. His talent is known, but just seeing him as a person and how he treated, he was number one on the call sheet, but he's not acting like he had to prove that he's number one on the call sheet. Yeah. I saw him with fans that would approach us when we were in town, and what he meant to people, and how I think he understood the weight of that and the responsibility of that. And, was just really blown away by his warmth and generosity, his curiosity, his story, how he used his platform and his power for so good. He started an racism foundation, and how he used his power. What I've seen in the week since his passing, people sharing stories about their time working with Lou and how kind and warm and helping he was to them. And I feel like I'm part of like a club of young actors who got to spend time with him. Yeah. And I had the wherewithal to say, like, what would you tell the younger actor, Lou? You know, what advice would you give? I had enough smarts in me to ask that. And this was with Chris Wente and Alan Powell too. We were all in the room for this.
Shout out to Chris Wente.
Yes, Chris Wente. You know, what would you tell a younger actor? And I'm gonna not say it nearly as eloquently as him, but this is the best advice I've gotten in my whole career, and it has played into almost every project I've worked on. Basically, he said, you come into a project, you're an actor, you put everything that you have into the character. You put your heart, your soul, everything into developing this real character. Squeeze yourself out. Don't leave anything out. Put all of yourself in. And then, this is the important part, when the project is over, when filming is done, the day that you wrap, you pack up all of yourself. You pack up your heart, you pack up your soul, you pack up everything that you put into this project, and you take it with you. And you don't leave your heart with a project, because you cannot control what happens to it. You can't control how it's edited. You can't control distribution. You can't control public reaction, accolades, lack of accolades. other people's responses, none of that. All of that is out of your control. As an actor, the only thing that you can control is your performance of one character in this whole project. And wow, it was, at the time, I remember thinking, that's really good advice. And I have used it more times than I ever thought, just reflecting on that. Like, this is, I have to do the work and then I have to move on. And the thought was not that you forget about the project, but that you have to be able to take your heart with you so that you can invest it into the next project. Because if you leave your heart with something, you're going to become bitter if it doesn't become the thing you want it to be. And he talked about his own experiences with that, of feeling like he wanted something that didn't happen, or he wanted an award that didn't come from something. But if you take your heart with you so that you can invest into the next project, you're protecting yourself from that.
What great advice. And I immediately thought about, famously in Will Smith's biography, him talking about ended up, getting a divorce because he couldn't leave a character behind. And he left his heart, in that script and became that person that person at home, which sounds impossible to people who don't do it every day, but it's so possible when you're trying to be, a top 2% actor in a industry, and you're trying to give your all to your cast, character, crew, director, and to the story. You've been supported throughout.
Let me just say one more thing about.
Oh yeah, please.
No, just about Lou. I was able to stay in touch with him, and I've seen this come up with other actors and people who've worked with him. He had an incredible character on The Watchmen, and yes, and he took the time to talk with me on the phone about my own auditions for the show. And I'm booking at the time, what ended up being like a co-star role on the show, and him encouraging me made the biggest impression. I mean, this is somebody who is using their power and using their influence and using their voice just to be a generous resource. So I just want to say, especially to his family too, what a gift it was to get to know him.
That's beautifully said. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing your experience with them. That means the world, hopefully to the family and to listeners, but also to me. There is this sense that as you become a sage in any given industry or any expertise you have, you spend those final years replanting, into the garden, and you're just looking for worthy gardeners to pass the secrets of
really good.
Down to. And it sounds like he did that quite well. So thank you for that. Before I was just mentioning that you've been so supported by women in independent film. And I know you wanted to talk a little bit about, didn't want to leave them out. I mean, you've got the incredible sort of mainstream Hollywood success, and I wish you nothing but continued success. But I know you wanted to give a shout out to independent film and women in particular in independent film that have supported you.
Yes. Oh, thank you. That's a great way of saying it. My heart, I have a special place in my heart for indie filmmaking and indie filmmakers. I was just going to share, I'm trying to think how to pivot this from this beautiful sentimental moment, because it's about a butt shot. So I don't know.
That's fine. We need to bring everybody up. We got to bring everybody up. We're a little bit sad. We're a little bit sad. Let's bring.
So I want to say this gently because I love my female filmmaker friends, and I don't want to feel like I'm throwing shade at my male filmmaker friends. But, probably more of the filmmakers I've worked with have been men, and I'm lucky from where I got my start, the time period that I got my start in, that I haven't had I've had no bad experiences. So I have no shade to throw at anyone. Yeah, really. I mean, when you hear stories about people, I feel really, really lucky. I've just always been surrounded by professionals. So this is not to say anything about male filmmakers, but it feels like such a specific, great story about female filmmakers and female filmmaker friends. So this is about Nicole Lim and Katie Amond, who I know you love, both of them.
I love both of them. Shout out to Nicole Lim and Katie Amond.
Amen. Thank you. And we worked on a short film over the summer, and the setup is I'm like in a bikini that I wouldn't wear as Sarah, right? It's like 1/3 of a butt cheek is covered. Sarah wouldn't wear that, but the character is, right? And so
it's like those old Bebe or BB swimsuits back in the day when they were in business. You remember that shop?
With like rhinestones?
Well, it used to be like in
BB.
Yeah, they would have like floor to ceiling like model pictures in there, and those bathing suits for women. I remember I grew up with mostly girls, and the whole ass would be out, but before it was fashionable.
Yeah, I mean, people are doing it now, and it looks good, and I love that for other people. I love that for them. I'm so happy for them and their cheeks. It looks so good. It's not my choice. I don't want to do it, but I'm a professional. I'm an actor, and it looked good, and it was styled really nicely by Fallon. I'm going to say her last name wrong. Fallon Grunko. I'm going to mumble it. Grunko. She's such a great stylist. She put together this really great wardrobe, and so it's like a Post-it note and like nothing on the bottoms, and so we shoot it with a little sarong wrap, and the sarong wrap sheer. But these are two female filmmakers. Nicole is such a pro that everything the whole time is like, are we comfortable? Here's the angles here. I want to show you how we're going to do this. You're going to come out of here. It was very much focused on not like the male gaze. It was meant to just feel luxurious rather than trivializing and over-sexualizing. It was really cool, like how we talked about it on set. Yep. And again, I say I haven't had any bad experiences with male filmmakers, so this is just specifically talking about my sweet female filmmaker friends. So we talk about how it's going to look, and then they get to the edit, and Katie and Nicole send me. I need to send you the video. It's the funniest thing. They basically took a video of what they wanted to use and got my consent on it. They're like, okay, so you're going to come out from this angle. This is the shot we want to use, and the sheer sarong. And here's what we're thinking. And we want to get your consent on that. Make sure you're okay with this. And if you don't like it, we can do a different angle, or we can, in post, we can change the edit so that the sheer sarong is darker so we don't see any cheek, and all of this stuff that I thought, gosh, what a treat to work with female filmmakers who are thinking how they might feel in that moment too, right? You could tell that they're really thinking through their own feelings on the matter. Yeah.
Katie's huge on that.
Yes, she's so good. So cool. So the video is funny because it's them being like, here's what we're thinking. Here's your cheeks. And if you're comfortable with it, great. If not, we'll make it better. And I love that. I love that from them. It was really sweet. But I said, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say shout out to them because I think you're a lot like me in this sense. You can tell me if you're wrong, because me and Katie have had dinners and coffees and all kinds of stuff together where we're talking about this thing. And I know she's really big on this stuff, and rightfully so, by the way. Rightfully so. Mm-hmm. But I will say to her, but do what's best for the movie.
Yeah.
Like, do the story. Like it, you have to make sure that if the best shot is the shot that might not be the most comfortable, did you cast correctly in that case? Because now your movie is going to be jacked up because of that. But you're not like that. Like, you're like, no, what's the story?
Yeah.
Like, how do I get the story right? And then you can live with it because you were comfortable being on set in the thing in the first place.
Well, but that's trust though. Like, I trust Fallon, the stylist. I trust Nicole. They're showing me what it looks like. So we're not worried that it's going to look unflattering.
Like unflattering. That's a really huge point too. That's a giant point, which is directors out there, any directors, one of your number one jobs outside of directing the actor is to make sure they look good. These movies will play freaking forever. And it's, you don't get a second chance to like really make this person, look good for all time on camera. And so really consider what makes them look good. And by the way, I would love a link to that. Send it, whenever you're comfortable and right away.
I wanted to send you the quote. Okay. So what did I say to My response was, if the butt looks fine, I won't decline. So
this is great. Okay. So now we've had a Larry David, comment in this conversation. And that was very Seinfeldian. It was almost like it was said by a Seinfeld character, like Jackie Moon. Wasn't that, Kramer's lawyer when he drank the coffee? It was too hot. Yeah. If the butt looks fine, I won't decline.
Yeah.
That's great.
You. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. And you can trust these ladies. These ladies are super pros and awesome. I appreciate you shouting them out. Haven't had Nicole actually on this podcast for some reason, but I've had Katie a couple of times. So you can go back.
She's doing some great stuff. Yeah. You got to get Nicole on. She's awesome.
Yeah. She's the best. And, if you guys listening want to have some context to the story, you can go back in our catalog. I don't know exactly which episodes, but there's 2 different episodes. I think one where Katie is on with Tiffany Montgomery, the wonderful actress, and then one where she's on with Sarah Zanotti, her co-founder in As If Productions, and that's just a hoot. So I think we're all getting drunk in real time on it. So yeah, go back and listen to that with me, Sarah, and Katie as they ask me progressively inappropriate questions to try to make me uncomfortable.
Stop! Yes.
Yeah. So please go find that. Sarah, this has been an absolute freaking blast.
So much fun. I love it.
So much fun. I cannot believe we waited this long to do a round 2, and we will have to do a round 3 when it's appropriate. And, maybe we can do we're going to do live podcasts. I think in 2024, we're going to try to do a few of those. You should come on for one of these live things. I think it'll be great for the audience. But until then, how can this audience find you? Can you give them places on social media, the internet, where they can find you, reach out to you if they want to?
For sure.
And where can they see some of your work?
You can go to my IMDb page at Sara Antonio on the IMDb to see the last things I've been working on. And I think there might be a reel up there. And then on my Instagram is where I post other stuff. I have an account that's Sara, Sara, Antonio, Antonio, IO. So Sara Antonio. I didn't think about how it would sound when I said it, but it's basically Sara Antonio with IO at the end of it. And that's where I post updates on things I'm working on, projects. And I'm heading to Atlanta in a little bit to go film Will Trent some more. And then I'm going to be in LA for the first week in May, doing some hays and highs and doing some new photos out there. So if anyone wants to hang, I'm there.
That's super exciting. I'll be in LA in June.
Nice.
So I'll miss you, but I wish I could be out there. And folks, you heard it from the horse's mouth, if you will, figuratively speaking. Go follow her on Instagram. Go to her IMDb page, Sara Antonio IO.
You got
on
it.
Instagram. Go find her, follow her. Her North Star just continues to rise and rise and rise. Her zenith is way up on the mountaintop. So get in early. This is I love to buy stock early and then just rise. And that's exactly what Sara Antonio has been and will continue to be. If you love this podcast,
Costco. Yeah.
There you go. If you love this podcast and, if you're new to it, you know where to find it already. Apple, Spotify, anywhere fine podcasts are played, or on our YouTube page, just search for The Make It Podcast. I have no idea why the taxonomy works like this, but you need to put the in there when you go to YouTube. So The Make It Podcast, we will come right up. We appreciate your support. If you want to reach out to me directly, any comments, questions, concerns, etc., you can do that on X. I am at Flame in Your Heart. Your is spelled UR, or you can just search Chris Barkley and I will come right up. We are at _ the Make It Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. And you can also find us on Facebook, for sure, if you want to reach out to us there as well. Oh, I should mention, we're also on X at _ Make It Podcast as well. So, please do give us a follow. If you want to know more about us as a organization that's Bonsai Creative, you can go to www.bonsai.film, or you can go to themakeitpodcast.com and read everything that we have to offer, including our great new shop with tons of apparel and fun things for you to buy and for you to sort of live this mantra of making it. Please do check it out. The shop is brand new. We also have a great partnership with Cotton Bureau. The cool thing about Cotton Bureau is 90% of all designs submitted are rejected. Well, ours is in there. So we're really proud of this. The t-shirts are buttery soft. The hoodies are warm and amazing. And we also have a bonsai black, so custom black phone case for you to try out there. So go to cottonbureau.com/makeitpodcast and our shop will come right up. We appreciate all the support per usual. And of course, last but not least, we have a bi-weekly newsletter. It's called Indie Insights. You can subscribe to that at bonsai.film, or I should say www.bonsai.film/subscribe, or you can go to our website and click newsletter and subscribe there. Just put your email in and you'll get the very next newsletter on Friday. And I promise you, it is a good time. It's not spammy. And we grab from all corners of the universe to find things in film that you just probably missed or just couldn't find. And we make it super interesting for you. So do support that. It means the world to us. It's a passion project. We all work on it together here at Bonsai and at the Make It Podcast. And so with that, I will end on this, Sarah. You've talked about unicorn horn and tiger penis being your supplements that have kept you young. Is there anything new? Is there anything new that you take to, like, you're glowing right now? Is this still unicorn horn
really good lighting.
and tiger penis, or is this something else?
Oh, just be nice.
How are you staying so youthful?
Yeah,
just be nice.
Be nice to people. Yeah. I don't know if that's a really good answer, but I think being nice does help.
It sure does.
Right? Hydrate, wear your sunscreen, get just a little bit of Botox right there. Don't do too much.
Yeah, because then you won't be able to have an expression.
Just a little bit. Just get that little grumpy line. No, I say that to be funny, but yeah, just take good care of yourself and be nice to people and drink water and wear sunscreen.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Get the right sunscreen. Most sunscreens are toxic. Get the good stuff.
Don't get the thing that's bad for the reef. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Get the good sunscreen, and you too can be timeless like Sara Antonio. Sarah, love you. Thank you. I appreciate you so much.
This was so much fun. Hearts.
Yep. Be good. Tell everybody I said hello.
And the feeling leaves me hopelessly lost in this bound. Would you go forever? Does it grow? Does it grow forever? Would you go? Would you go forever? Does it grow? Does it grow forever? Every fall, can you get much higher? Yeah, yeah.